Okay. So, constructing cultures, the politics of travelers tells. Travelers tells. Travelers, we know that the person who travels many parts of this world. It's for the historical location. Excuse me. মোবাইল সামনে থাক কিন্তু মোবাইলে শার্প করা যায়। So travelers who travels from one destination to others, and whenever they travel, after finishing their travel, they try to write something. That is called travelers tales. মানে ভ্রমণ কাহিনী, ভ্রমণ কাহিনী। ইংরেজি হলো হচ্ছে ট্রাভেলাগ। So traveler, what is a traveler? Traveler can be a piece of writing about travel, a talk or lecture on travel, usually accompanied by a film or slides like that. A narrated motion picture about travel, that is, a travelogue can exist in the form of book, blog, diary, journal, an article, essay, podcast, lecture, so many forms. Our concern is that travelers travel many parts of this world and they write something, their experience. Our today's concern, what they write, is it true? That is the question. Let's come to the discussion. Michel Foucault, the French philosopher, he has said there are two kinds of comparison in case of comparative literature. One, that is primary and the secondary authors. That means you can compare a text that is the primary author and the secondary author. In which way? That means if a text is written by one writer and next time that can be the adaptation by another writer, just like Amos Hedger and William Shakespeare, The Tempest and The Tempest, A Tempest. Primary and secondary author. Greater and lesser text. What it is that greater? That means a value. Some text might be very important in terms of literary contribution and some less contribution. So we can also compare these two kinds of text. A stronger and weaker culture, that is also a question of debate. Okay, that is can be called no cultures can't be stronger and no culture can't be weaker. Every culture is culture. Okay? But there is a explanation from several perspectives that their culture is great, other culture is less great, right? That majority and minority language. Majority language, in that case, you can say that means the language that is used by majority or many people of this world. That can be the majority language, and the minority language, less number of people. Okay, that is the majority and language. So that is two kinds of comparison. And apart from this is the explanation given by French philosopher Michel Foucault. Second one is that readings of the account of journeys. That can be the second category. First category, the comparison, there will be two kinds of grace. And the second comparison, account of journeys of the diaries. Okay, diary, now you know, that means everybody, many person, they write diary. Okay, personal diary. Okay, and that diary can be compared also. Okay, letters, you know, that means John Keats has written many letters, and John Keats' letters can be a topic of comparison. In which way? We have seen John Keats is a romantic poet. In his poem, what we have seen as a poet, in his letters, what can be called the John Keats' writing. Okay, so letters, translation tales told by travelers of their experience of other cultures. So this is the thing that is Michel Foucault has said, that means comparison can be done in two perspectives. In previous class we said that actually Columbus discovered America. And what was the logic? Columbus said that Columbus wanted to an alternative route to Asia. This was the logic. But Todorov, Bulgarian French historian, he said that actually the motive was different. What is the motive? Todorov has pointed out of the reference of the magic word oro. Oro means gold. Okay. So where gold failed to materialize, he proceeded further, driven by certainty that it must be there, just out of reach. Other colonizers expressed their journeys in terms of land cultivation, planting, fertilizing, hoeing, tilling, plowing the land, and recently scholars have begun to point out the equation of that kind of imagery that of the ray. Okay, actually it was assumed, এটা মনে করা হয় যে কলম্বাস চেয়েছিল ইউরোপ থেকে এশিয়া আসার জন্য একটা অল্টারনেটিভ পথ আবিষ্কার করার। ওকে, বাট টডরভ উনি বলছেন যে না, অ্যাকচুয়ালি Columbus was founding or searching oro. Oro mean gold. Whenever he would fail, যখন সে এক জায়গায় ব্যর্থ হয়েছে, গোল্ড পায়নি, তখন সে অন্য জায়গায় চলে গিয়েছে। এই যে এক্সপ্লোরেশন, বিভিন্ন জায়গা ভ্রমণের যে নেশা, এই নেশাটার পিছনে in case of Columbus he had the intention of collecting golds. In case of others they said that land of cultivation, অনেকে নতুন ল্যান্ড সংগ্রহ করে সেখানে কি করবে, বিভিন্ন ধরনের চাষ করবে, and also fertilizing, hoeing, tilling, plowing the land. These are the things, that is the motive was several travelers or explorers. The motive is different. কেউ চাষ করতে যাচ্ছে, কেউ গোল্ড সংগ্রহ করতে যাচ্ছে, কেউ সেখানে ফার্ম করতে যাচ্ছে, এক একজনের এক এক মোটিভ. That was their motive, and there is a good analogy over there. That is, the scholars has begun to point out the equation of the kind of imagery with that of rape, without visiting this explorer. That means American continent or America was never been visited by outsiders. Okay, after the discovery of Columbus, so many people from Europe, they went to America, and when they went to America, scholars compared that is America before Columbus's discovery, that was a virgin island. But whenever Columbus's discovery and all European people over there, that virgin island was raped by these foreign people. Okay, that is an imagery of rape. The virgin colony lying back and wanting to be husbanded is a pornographic fantasy that recurs through the accounts of the European seeking their fortunes overseas. Okay, so that European 56 countries are there. They had been searching wealth outside Europe. Okay, and so they did it, and these people went to America for better fortune, for better cultivation, for better wealth, everything. And this European, and the very name of the American colony, Virginia, seemed to inspire a considerable number of lewd metaphors. That is the Virginia. Why it is called Virginia? We have seen earlier that Virginia, that's the colony that is at the site of Mexico, yeah, and that the colony that was overcrowded by the people who came from Europe. Europe থেকে এটা সমুদ্রের তীরের কাছাকাছি হওয়ার জন্য সমুদ্রের যারা ইউরোপ থেকে আসতো তারা অধিকাংশই সেখানে গিয়ে ভার্জিনিয়া কলোনিতে অবস্থান করছিল। Okay, so that was the position, that is American colony, that is called Virginia. Okay, so and this contemporary readings of accounts of travels. So our concern is that travelers tales, ট্রাভেলাররা যে গল্প বলে সেই গল্পটার পিছনে কারণ কি এবং এটার গল্পটা আসলেই প্রকৃত অর্থেই সত্য কিছু মিন করে কিনা. ওকে, so in that case we have said that the discovery of America, that can have different reasons, different people have different motives in case of discovering America. Contemporary readings of accounts of travels, inspired by differentiating methodologies deriving from gender studies, culture studies, postmodernist theory, expose subtext beneath the apparently innocent details of the journey. In other words, that enables us to see more clearly the ways which travelers construct the culture they experience. Look here, that means their motive may be different, but after traveling, the travelers construct the cultures they experience. Suppose if these 15 peoples, you have got visa for going to China. Okay, প্রত্যেকেই এক সপ্তাহ পর পরে যাবে, এক সপ্তাহ পর পরে গিয়ে সবাই এক সপ্তাহ ওখানে থেকে এসে সবাই চায়না ভ্রমণের অভিজ্ঞতা লিখবে. ওকে, সবাই তো চায়না গিয়েছে, সবাই এক সপ্তাহ থেকেছে, তাহলে প্রত্যেকের গল্প এক হওয়ারই কথা. That is the thing here the writer wants to say, that is the travelers construct the culture they experience. That means the traveler who will like the place or like the person of that country. Suppose you are visiting China's all cities you may not like, you like one city, so you will visit there and you will write that. She may like another city. Okay, so that is the thing, they will visit different city and they will write their experience. But in that case, the traveler's own self, own likings, own cultural experience reflects on what he is writing. Traveler যেটা লিখছে তার নিজের বিশ্বাস, চায়নার প্রতি তার বিশ্বাস, যে দেশটা ভ্রমণ করছে সেই দেশের প্রতি তার বিশ্বাস, সমস্ত কিছুর উপরে ভিত্তি করে তার লেখাটা. Okay, so that is for travelers' account of their journeys, we can trace the presence of cultural stereotype and the way in which an individual reacts to what is seen elsewhere can reflect tendencies in the traveler's home culture. That means whatever travelers will write, in case of writing the stories, travelers' home culture means, suppose you are visiting China or you are visiting Europe, your home culture is Asian culture or Bangladeshi culture. At the time of your writing, your culture will be reflected in your writing. That is the thing that was discussed over here. And there is an example over here, how. তাহলে আমরা কি বললাম, যে আপনি যখন কোনো একটা দেশ ভ্রমণ করবেন, ভ্রমণ করে তার উপরে যখন কিছু লিখবেন, লিখতে গেলে আপনার দেশের যে কালচার সেটাই সেই লেখার উপরে প্রতিফলিত হবে. সেটা কিভাবে সম্ভব? জেবি স্কট অফ বাঙ্গে সাফো, the first traveler to France and Italy in 1814 সালে এই ভদ্রলোক কোথায় ভ্রমণ করবেন? ফ্রান্স and Italy. And there he said that he also gives a statement about the landscape of the people. and following extract gives a sense of the tone of his writing. J.B. Scott, American writer, first time from he visited France and Italy in 1814, and after visiting there, he has written, J.B. Scott has written that the women of Leghorn is a city in Italy. Okay, a city in Italy, and the women of Leghorn. উনি বলছেন, জেবি স্কট বলছেন যে এই লেঘর্নের মেয়েরা কি আর সিঙ্গুলারলি ফেয়ার ইন জেনারেল। অনেক কথার মধ্যে উনি বলছেন যে হচ্ছে যে মেয়েরা অনেক বেশি দেখতে সুন্দর এই শহরে, লেঘর্ন শহরে। And much to our surprise, for their neighbors of province are almost mulattoes. Mulattoes means offspring of European black. প্রথমত বলছে যে কি যে তারা দেখতে খুব সুন্দর, বাট অধিকাংশগুলো দেখে মনে হচ্ছে they are the offsprings of European black. European was dominated by several slaves. That slaves they have got from Africa, black slaves, and they went there and they got their citizenship there and they started living there. Okay, so this J.B. Scott, this writer, went to France and Italy, and he said that the women are fair, but they can be the generation of black European. Okay, that means that is the tendency. Why? They wear a kind of white veil hanging from the top of their heads. বলছে তারা প্রত্যেককে মাথার সামনে একটা করে কি ওড়না পরে আছে, and descending over the shoulders and over looks very pretty. So that looks very good, and their earrings are generally of immense size. তাদের কানের যে কানের রিং ছোট হয়, কিন্তু তাদের কানের রিং হচ্ছে অনেক বড়, ইমেন্স সাইজের কানের রিং পড়ে আছে। কারা? মেয়েরা। The question is that means J.B. Scott could write many things, but he wrote especially for the women, and it is his observation. The Tuscan men are fine, intelligent set of people, and their hatred of the French is fully equaled by that they entertain the Austrians. Okay, so that is the writings of J.B. Scott. And this Tuscany is another city of Italy. Tuscany is known for the landscape, history, artistic legacy, and its influence on high cultures. Okay. And an Englishman at home and abroad in 1972 to 1828, with some recollection of the Napoleons being extracted from the diaries of J.B. Scott. And this J.B. Scott's diary, that was this journey was included. Okay, so J.B. Scott visited, American writer, visited France and Italy, and he wrote something about the women of Italy. This is like this, okay. And Scott follows the fashion of the young English intellectual of the day, and like Byron and Shelley, supports Italian independence claims from Austria. He is also, as a young man just down the Cambridge, interested in women. Look here, J.B. Scott didn't write about food, didn't write about travel, didn't write about commodities. He wrote about women, because the analogy is that J.B. Scott was interested about women, and for this reason he wrote this. And women he observed on his travels, but there is an anthropological note of this account of women and men of Leghorn that transform them into objects, creatures who acquire substance because he bestows it upon them. The women have unusually large earrings and pretty headgears. The men are fine and intelligent. What he sees and what he assumes are blurred. Actually, it is said that what J.B. Scott wanted to write, that is not clear, blurred. And his own English patriotism finds his counterpart at what he confidently assures us is hatred for the France. Actually, in his writing, J.B. Scott wanted to convey, that means J.B. Scott was an Englishman, so for this reason he would love English culture and he wouldn't love French and Italian culture, and for this reason he had a negative attitude, predetermined attitude towards France. At that time, at this point in the time where commonly seen as the devils of Europe, France কত সালে ভ্রমণ করেছিল? 1814 সালে. At that time, France had been considered as the devils of Europe. France was very, very powerful, and that France occupied the power of many European countries. Okay, যেহেতু ফরাসি দেশ অনেক দেশকে শাসন করেছিল, এবং জে.বি. স্কট যখন সেটা ভ্রমণ করে তখন ইংলিশম্যান হওয়ার কারণে ইংলিশ কালচারের প্রতি একটা তার দুর্বলতা ছিল এবং ফরাসি কালচারের প্রতি তার একটা নেগেটিভ অ্যাটিটিউড ছিল, এই জন্যই উনি এই কনসেপ্টটা লিখেছেন। Europe, seen as the devils of Europe. Scott moves from the descriptive mood to the statements of certainty with the confidence of the traveler who knows he is the position of the authority vis-a-vis a subject. That means J.B. Scott is writing, excuse me, put it there please. So the travelers who knows that is the position. So J.B. Scott has been writing about his attitude, what he thinks. Okay, that is in his writings. And J.B. Scott's editors, if we go for another accounts of journeys, we can also show us other about the way in which the travelers perceive their place in the world they inhabit. Okay. On September 1583, J.B. Scott ফ্রান্স অ্যান্ড ইটালি গেলেন এবং তার থেকে কত সালে? 1814 সালে গেছিলেন। এরপরে 1583 সালে ডক্টর জন লি, mathematician, philosopher and map maker and astrologer of Queen Elizabeth I, left England accompanied by his assistant Edward Kelly. That means J.B. Scott was an American writer, and here John Dee is a mathematician and map maker. At that time, at present, the country which will have economic power and military power, they can be called the strongest country at this moment. But at that time, that means 500 or 500 years back, the country or the person who could create map, he was the stronger person. So this Dr. John Dee, a mathematician and a map maker and the explorer, okay, astrologer of the Queen Elizabeth. So he, with his assistant is Kelly, he visited Europe and their travels to Krakow in Poland. And they took ship from Gravesend, and the details of a true and the faithful relation between what passed many years between Dr. John Lee and some spirit. And Dr. Dee and his assistant Kelly, they visited Poland, they went to Poland, and after that he has written something. The title is that a true and the faithful relation of what passed from many years between Dr. John Dee and some spirit. উনি ইউরোপ ভ্রমণ করেছেন, ডক্টর জেবি স্কটও ভ্রমণ করেছেন এবং ইনিও ভ্রমণ করেছেন। ভ্রমণ করে উনি এখানে লিখছেন, ডক্টর জন ডি লিখছেন যে তার বিভিন্ন স্পিরিটের সাথে, যে সুপারন্যাচারাল এলিমেন্টসদের সাথে তার যে কথাবার্তা হয়েছে এ সম্পর্কে উনি লিখেছেন। Some spirits followed by a circuitous path via Amsterdam up to the Zee to Harlingen. So that means different parts of this area he visited there, communicating with spirit at different places. So whenever Dr. D, John D and Kelly, they visited many parts, they had been communicating with the spirits. এই যে সুপারন্যাচারাল যে স্পিরিটের সাথে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় তাদের কি হয়েছে, দেখা হয়েছে, কমিউনিকেটিং উইথ স্পিরিট অফ ডিফারেন্ট প্লেসেস হোয়ার দে রেস্টেড। দে প্রসিডেড অন ব্রিমেন্স অ্যান্ড থেন্স অ্যাক্রস দ্য লুবেক, ফাইনালি রিচিং স্টেইন অন ক্রিসমাস ডে। Dr. John D and Kelly, they visited different parts of Europe, and in many places they had contact with the spirit. J.B. Scott said that he has observed women in a different way, and he wrote this. But they said, that means Dr. John D and Kelly, they said that they have the experience of talking with the spirit. Can it be possible? Okay. It had taken them 3 months traveling through the remarkable range of a place by boat, overland, but it then took them only 4 days to travel 20 miles down to the post office. So, the area they traveled, if they go directly, it will take only 4 days. But they took 3 months to reach over there. That means they visited this area, this area, this area, this area, this area, and after that they write that they have the experience of talking about with several spirits. Why? Eventually on 13th March 1584, the travelers reached their destination. Denotes there were laws in Krakow, and furthermore that Master Edward Kelly came to us on Friday in the Easter week by the new Gregorian calendar. Okay. So they said that a new Gregorian calendar, being the 27th day March by the old calendar. Okay, 2 kinds of calendar, Gregorian calendar and another old calendar. But the 6th day of the April by the new calendar, Easter day being the first day of the April of Poland by the new Gregorian. So 2 kinds of calendar, Gregorian calendar, and there is also another history. Okay, so all calendars, 2 kinds of calendar, Gregorian calendar and old calendar. So the person, Dr. John D and Kelly, what they would like, they took great care of the record, both the old style of dates and the new ones he had arrived in Poland. Although Gregorian calendar, it was very recent and it had been adopted by throughout the Catholic Europe. And scholars from the Protestant countries, although refusing to accept what was considered as a Papist reform, the Gregorian calendar was not accepted in England until 1752. Okay, so this Gregorian calendar was not accepted by England. Okay, so nevertheless, extremely interested, Dee had written the unpublished discourse of the Queen in February 1538, inviting her to pursue and consider as concerning the needful reformation of the vulgar calendar. Okay, so that is so they, what calendar they would like, they followed. Who followed? That means John D and Kelly. Why? Because this interest was in calendar. In case of J.B. Scott was interested in women, and D was interested in calendar. So our concern is that travelers write stories, but the 2 travelers they visit the same area, but their writing becomes different. Okay. And another one, Sir Francis Drake. D was a product of the great age of voyages of discovery, the moment when map mapping became a science rather than an art. The moment when map making became a science rather than an art, when the map became an instrument of hegemony. What I have said, that means at present the powerful country, they will try to dominate others, but at that time map can be the symbol of hegemony, with the help of the map. That means the means that by which whole civilization could be conquered, millions of slave trade across the oceans, and the whole patterns of social relation altered irrevocably. Okay, so that is the map maker, map making. So as Mary Helmer says, the map making signifies a process of massive change. Okay, so D moved away from the map making and shifted his focus on the problem of measuring time and dates. Okay, and also making contact with the anti-material world of the spirit. Another, D was interested in map making, so he did it. And another one, the anti-material world of the spirit. Spirit নিয়েও কথা বলেছেন কে? D. And a shift has troubled generation of scholars unable to reconcile mathematics, map making and magic in the manner of D's contemporaries. Okay. And not that all his contemporaries was able to effect such reconciliation either. John Fox, for example, referred to him, that is the great conjurer, a caller of the devils. Okay, so that is the thing he has said. Okay, so another thing, why they took 3 months? যেটা 4 দিনে যাওয়া যায় তো?
Did you understand the culture?
Actually, the difference is the analogy is different. What is the difference? Actually, D visited the area or traveled through the area. D and his party had carefully steered a course through the Calvinistic and Lutheran territories. So all the area, the people believe in that Calvinistic and Lutheran territories, avoiding the Catholic dominant lands. Okay, that means if D and Kelly would go directly, they have to go over the Catholic dominated area. সেটা তারা চায়নি। ওকে, এই জন্য তারা অনেক দূর ঘুরে গিয়ে এলো, এবং ঘুরে যাওয়ার কারণে তাদের কি হলো, তাদের গল্পটাও আলাদা হলো, এবং সেই গল্পের মধ্যে তারা বলতো যে সেখানে অ্যান্টি ম্যাটেরিয়াল স্পিরিটের সাথে তাদের কি হয়েছে, কনভারসেশন হয়েছে। Okay, making their way down from the Baltic coast into the Central Europe along a careful selected route that would ensure they lodge in friendly territory until they reached their destination. Okay, that is their condition, what they wrote. Okay. Another one, with the subsequent journeys, finds Morrison became increasingly another person. He made a visit. Okay. The unknown map-making who produced the text may have been writing on the same time that Heinz Morrison, a student of Peterhouse, Cambridge, as they described himself as an opening sentence, set out a journey round Europe. তাহলে প্রথমে জেবি স্কট ভ্রমণ করলো, তারপরে কে, ডক্টর ডি, জন ডি অ্যান্ড কেলি, এরপরে আরেকজন ক্যামব্রিজের স্টুডেন্টও ইউরোপ ভ্রমণ করলো, তার নাম কি, মরিসন। ফাইন মরিসন সেটা ভ্রমণ করতে গিয়ে হিজ ফার্স্ট অ্যাকাউন্ট প্রাগ গিভ সাম ইন্ডিকেশন অফ দ্য টোন অফ হিজ রাইটিং, as so Prague consists of the cities all passed with walls, yet is nothing less than a strong and excellent instincts of the streets drive back to the Turks, and they meet the open field. So this is Morrison's description. So 3 persons visit Europe: J.B. Scott, John Dee, and now Morrison. With the subsequent journey, Fiennes Morrison became increasingly confident, giving lengthy accounts of what people wore, the food they ate, their courtship and marriage practice, punishment, and countless other details. Okay. J.B. Scott কার কথা বললো? উইমেনদের কথা বলেছিল। জন ডি ম্যাপের কথা বলেছে, পাশাপাশি স্পিরিটের কথা বলেছে। And ইনি বলেছেন, this person, actually this Morrison was interested about food, clothing, other things. So he wrote food, the courtship, marriage practice, punishment, countless other details he has written. Okay. So he also began to address the reader directly, and the other advice to the travelers assume a far more authoritative role than the enthusiastic undergraduate voice of some itinerary. And with the greater authority comes another more cautionary note: a traveler must sometimes hide his money. Also he has written about food, other things, everything. Okay, and he said about the travelers, he said that with the great authority comes more cautionary note: a traveler must sometime hide his money, change his habit, dissemble his country, and fairly conceal his religion. Who said that? Who wrote that? This Morrison, Fiennes Morrison also. He has talked about food, culture, courtship, marriage system, but he put some note according to his description. And through more cynically, he warns against the foolishness of being caught in the wrong place with the wrong religious credential. Okay, so if the travelers show their religious belief, then sometimes the travelers may fall in danger and fall in troubles. Okay, so that is their things. Fiennes, Morrison, and Dee both traveled across the body of Europe, and their accounts are different in tone. That what we wanted to say. Okay, that is the Fiennes, Morrison, and Dee. They visited the same area, but their story is different. Dee's story is different from Fiennes, Morrison. That is our concern of comparative literature. That means all are not things similar. Dee wanted to record his encounters with the spirit, with the geographical data secondary, whilst Fiennes Morrison recorded a random collection of anecdotes, experience, vignettes, and images. Reading Morrison's literature, we lose track of where he is, and although he tells us it took him 2.5 days to reach Uxbury to Nuremberg, and so this is the description of Morrison's and Dee's journey. This account of his journey is conditioned by his experience of a map maker. As we have said, every person will have some pre-notion. So Dee's journey was overshadowed by his map making tendency, and Fiennes Morrison is out of a kind quest, wandering through the world in search of adventures. So Fiennes Morrison's attitude is different. So whenever he wrote this, that is the different scenario we have seen. Significantly, he notes the size and the strength of fortifications in the cities he visits, because a constant subtext in his writing is the fear of attack of the Turks. Okay, and also at the time, Europe and many countries. Excuse me. And At that time, Europe was in constant afraid of the strike or attack of the Turks. So here, Hind Morrison also notes that so many fortifications, so many forts. Why? Because they want to save themselves from the Turks' attack. That is his conditions. Okay, so this is the thing we see in case of map makers. Okay. The debate on translation have been raised on down to the centuries and have frequently concerned with the visibility of attack on the translator. Is the translator a transfer channel? It is another concern. A kind of glass tube through which the source language text is miraculously transformed in its passage into the target language, and the translator herself an element is that process of transfer. Okay, there is an analogy. What I have said, that means in case of travel, যখন ট্রাভেলাররা কোনো জায়গা ভ্রমণ করে একটা গল্প লেখে, ট্রাভেলারের ওন বিলিফ তার গল্পের উপরে যেমন একটা প্রতিক্রিয়া ফেলে, ট্রান্সলেশনের ক্ষেত্রেও তাই। যদিও ট্রান্সলেশন একটা ভাষা থেকে আরেকটা ভাষায় ট্রান্সলেশন করছে, কিন্তু এই একই ট্রান্সলেশন যদি 3 জন ব্যক্তি করে বা 12 জন ব্যক্তি করে, তাহলে 12 জনের ট্রান্সলেশন 12 রকমের অর্থ গিয়ে দাঁড়ায়। কেন? ইজ দেয়ার এনি ইফেক্ট অফ দ্য translator's own mind in his translation? Okay, that is a question. Maybe similar question have begun to be asked about map makers. Questions and the changes that supposed objectivity of map and asked what the map might for and might be seeking to represent. Post-colonial theory has cancelled into the question of the organization of the geographical space, inviting us to consider the prioritizing and the starting point, the cultural base of the map maker. So the European cartographers, so that is the map making. So map making tendency. So the map maker and the translator and the travel writers are not innocent producer of text. Okay. Same place was visited by 3 persons, and the writing is 3 different angles. Okay. One text may be translated by 3 or 4 persons. One map of a single area can be compiled by many persons. Okay. So in comparative literature, the analogy is that the map maker, the translator and the travel writer are not innocent producer of text. Why? Because their own tendency, their own likingness, everything will be reflected in their writing. That is our today's concern, that constructing culture, that means traveler style. The works they create are part of a process of manipulation. Okay. The diary, biography, biography and autobiography, autobiography and biography and diary. Okay, so these are the things. In case of map making, travel writing, manipulation will be there. Manipulation by what? Manipulation by, if you visit a country whose culture you like, then you will try to manipulate your own font or your likings in your writing. যদি আপনি এটা পছন্দ করেন, আর যদি আপনি পছন্দ না করেন, তাহলে আপনার কালচারটা ভালো, সো আপনার ভালো কালচার প্রকাশ করতে গিয়ে যেটা সম্পর্কে লিখছেন সেই কালচারটাকে কি করবেন, একটু ভালোভাবে লিখবেন না। ওকে, manipulate that shapes and conditions our attitude to the other cultures while purporting to be something else. Map makers produce text and can be used in a very specific way. Translators intervene in the interlingual transfer, which they, so that is the thing in case of traveler styles. Okay, and that is the concern of the whole bias of the map is away from the northern Europe towards those of the area who is a part of the Roman Empire. Okay. So So this is the map making and the traveler's tales. Okay, and there is this is another whole new dimension of comparative literature studies, and has important tone for as we learn how culture construct other cultures, how the explicit and the implicit are woven together, and so we also learn about the manipulative process that underlies her self-proclaimed objective and faithful description of reality. Naturally, we can assume that there is a book by road লন্ডন থেকে ঢাকায় উনি এসেছেন কি? এটা ধারণা করা হয় travelers tells the what they will write, that is basically the two things they have written. But here in this analogy we have seen that actually 3 persons visited the same area, but their description is different. Okay, and that means the map making is not always very good, very we are about to finish, but some other persons are there in this category. Okay, so you will read that. Okay, so some other okay, so we will finish our today's class by reading this. Okay, so map making, traveling and translation are not transparent activities. Okay, in comparative literature. Actually, how? In which way? We have got the examples. 3 persons visited the similar area, but their description is they are very definitely located activities with points of origin, points of departure and destination. The great development in comparative literary studies is that which questions are now on our agenda. The time has come out only for us to compare accounts by travelers, but to question the premises on which those accounts were written in the first place. Like John Dee, we too are in the process of moving from the simply mapping to the more sophisticated science of balancing different systems of calculating times and dates. Okay, so the traveler's tales, that is the map making, translation, naturally we can't get the true history. Why? Because different travelers will be writing their story in their own way. Okay, so that is our today's concern about travelers' tales and the construct of cultures. Okay, and some other things are there. Okay, that means Danube River and other things. Okay, so you will read this. Okay, so that is the politics of travelers' tales. That means travelers will be guided by their own likings and dislikings, and they will write that. Okay, any questions?